No solo welcome, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me? Is the microphone on?
No.
The mic is not on, yeah? So you have to turn the mic up. I have it over here. I have to do something else. Check, check. 1, 2. Check, check. That was a very nice experience. Check, check. 1, 2. Check, 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 check. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Buenos días, buenas tardes. ¿Cómo está? Bien, 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 bien. Gracias a Dios, bien. Right? My name is Keith Fiveson, and I am really very, very glad to be here today to talk to you about customer experience. The reason I want to talk to you about customer experience, and the reason I want to talk to you about specifically consciousness and the customer experience, is because I believe that consciousness is the reason why I'm alive today. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. And if it wasn't for consciousness in my life, to be aware, to be awake, to be alive of who I am and the world around me, I don't think I would be alive. So what I'm talking about specifically is how do we bring consciousness, how do we bring this awareness, this awake, this aliveness into our business? Because whether or not you're an individual, personally, or whether or not you have a business, you need to be conscious. You need to be aware, awake, and alive to the experiences of your employees, to your own experiences, to the health of the organization, so that you can grow and you can be healthy. Does this make sense? Shake your head yes if it makes sense. Okay, yes. Are you aware and awake and alive? Shake your head yes if you are. Good, good. So this is going to be the topic for our discussion today, because one of the things that I realize is that if we don't show up for ourselves and our own lives, then how are we going to show up for other people? So what we're going to talk about is companies that show up and how they show up, and an experiential design wheel that we put together to really look at this. But first of all, why customer experience? Why is customer experience important now? Well, I think you need to look at what's happening in the world around you. Can you bring the lights down a little up front? Just a little up front. Okay, so what's happening around us? First of all, everyone saw this video on YouTube. Yeah, this is a video of the tsunami. Okay, a video of the tsunami, which you may have a little hard time seeing because the lights aren't dim. But I will tell you that 1,200 tweets a minute, 1,200 tweets a minute as soon as it happened. 1,200 tweets a minute as soon as it happened around the world. Continuing views on YouTube. Social media is the reason why we're talking about customer experience. Not too much in the back, but just in the front. Can you do that? Social media is now bringing down countries. Okay, there was a problem in Egypt about a man who went to the government and he was tired of paying off bribes. He burned himself. Basically lit himself on fire. And people in Egypt rallied around this man. There was a Facebook page that was put together, and suddenly people started to realize, you know, we are all this man. We are all this man. We can't just sit there. We have to do something. And what happened is people organized, people converged, people came together. And they came together in a voice that literally brought down the Egyptian government. This is a revolution. This isn't just a media device, it's a revolution. People are coming together on the web who are shopping, who are saying, I've had enough, I will not take it anymore. Enough, I won't take it anymore. And if a company is providing bad service, what happens? We tweet about it, we talk about it. Okay, this is the way we are. We're social animals. We are wired for connection. We're totally wired to connect with other people. This is who we are, right? Shake your head, yes. Breathe. Right, okay, good. You see this, right? All right, so what's happening is people are coming together, converging in ways that they haven't done before. Today, one day, an individual will consume as much information in one day as they consumed from the beginning of publishing to the year 2003, according to Eric Schmidt at Google. In one day, there's more information than anyone could possibly consume. We have all this information, but are we smarter? Are we more knowledgeable? Are we more wiser? No, right? Right. We're not. So we're seeking this connection. We're seeking the wisdom. We're seeking the knowledge. And this is what consciousness is about. Because the more information we get, what happens? The more we know. Right? It's too much. I can't handle it. It's way too much. You know, so the job of good leadership is to listen. Okay? To be vulnerable. What we see is that companies that do it wrong, does everyone know what WOM is? Word of mouth. Word of mouth advertising. Okay? The internet, social media is making it such that companies feel uncomfortable. Countries are being brought down. Companies don't know what to do. The consumer has power now. The customer has power now that they didn't have before. So companies that don't address it are having trouble. So a new kind of leadership is needed. A leadership that we're going to talk about. A leadership that's vulnerable. A leadership that listens. Because what happens is 86% of people who are unhappy tell other people. Right? I mean, I go on a vacation. I've had a wonderful vacation. Something wrong happens. What happens when somebody asks me, how was your vacation? Nice. But the hotel, there's always something bad to talk about. 20% post negative comments, 15% stop doing business, and one bad comment, it takes 5 good comments to neutralize one good comment, okay? And these people are called detractors. Detractors can take away profits from the business. They can make it so that your competitors look real good if they have a better offer. Especially so in the case of the phone company, Complex Mills. What do? They go to the competitor. On the other side, great customer experience and great word of mouth can attract more customers. Okay, we see this especially so with Apple. How many of you have an Apple? Good, good. And the reason you bought the Apple was because people who have Apples were so happy. Right? You listen, right? Pretty good. So 55% became customers from the reputation of the brand. 40% began buying because of their reputation for great customer service. Now, the interesting thing about this is that great experiences, people will pay more. Why? Because nowadays, everyone is treated really like, why are you calling? What's your problem? Right? I mean, how many of you have called up a company as a good customer and listened to someone on the phone that really made you feel like you were sorry because you called? Yeah? Raise your hand if it's true. It's true, right? It's true. It happens. So 25% more, 85% will pay more, up to 25% more for a good experience. And this is very important because we have to listen to that. Companies are afraid. They're afraid to be vulnerable, to open up, to make the investment. Why? Because of profits. Because of the fact that right now, today, most companies look at bad profits over good profits They look at ways of squeezing the profit out of the customer. And this is a very important thing to note. And we'll talk about this as we start to take a look at the knowledge and the experience of customers. The reason why I believe that Apple does such a good job is because of the visionary leadership. Steve Jobs, there's no reason to not follow your heart. And at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we want to be connected with from a heart level. It's true, right? Very true. So the question is, from a vision viewpoint, from a leadership viewpoint, how do we empower our people to be who they are, to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to really know what the company is about, what the vision is about, and to really be present, to be engaged. As Katrina said, 2/3 of the employees are not engaged. That's incredible, right? When it comes to great experiences, we all want to feel great. I love this quote from Maya Angelou. It's a great quote. It's the heart of consciousness, I believe. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. I walked around here before and I shook most of your hands, right? Raise your hand if I shook your hand. Raise your hand if I shook your hand. All right, most of the hands here are raised, right? And the reason I did that is I wanted to connect with you. I wanted to connect with you on a heart level, okay? Because we're all human beings here, and we came here to learn something, but we also came for an experience, right? We came to connect, to learn something on a heart level that we could go on the web, right? Why come here? Because you learn something different. And that's important. You learn something on a heart level. So consciousness. We started recently doing a collaboration with the Consciousness Quotient Institute in Romania. And the idea here is to really look at consciousness in the work environment. Because they've done a lot of studies, scientific studies, to show that when people are conscious, they're more awake, they're more aware, they do better overall. They connect in a way that's much better. And we've really isolated this in 6 areas to show scientifically how this works. And we'll talk about that, but it's basically the mind, the body, the emotion, the spirit, the social connectivity, the insight. 6 areas. So we're going to talk about how that translates into the corporate area. But everyone, if you're conscious, most people live 95% of their lives unconsciously. They literally have a radio station in their heads. How many of us have a radio station in your head? Right? Voices, tune, you have to tune in, you have to tune out. So really, this is subconscious, right? It's like an ongoing chatter, right? And to move into a state of consciousness is to be always asking the why, the where, the how, the when, the questions that really drive insight. You know, yesterday I came here and I hardly had any sleep, right? I woke up, I was groggy. And what happened? I came to the conference center, I got on the wrong bus. I got on the wrong bus to the conference center. And I'm the co-chair, right? So, you know, so was I conscious? No, right? I had a moment of unconsciousness, right? I had a moment of blind faith. And I just went with the flow. And I learned through that experience what happened, right? And I'm here today. So I found my way this morning. I made sure I got up, I found the right bus, I looked 3 times, I asked people, right? Just to make sure I was here right. So, experience. It is impossible to not have an experience. Everyone has an experience. Everyone. The question is whether or not you're conscious of that experience. But it's impossible to not have an experience. So experiences are based on the mind, the physical, the emotional, the spirit, the social, the insight. Okay, in terms of really at any particular time, when we're in an environment, some of you will be more conscious now of the conversation that's going on in the other room. Some of you may be thinking about what time is this over? I can't wait to go to lunch, right? Some of you are having different experiences, right? And some of you are very, very focused on what I'm saying. You're very, very, very focused on what I am saying. You get that? Okay. So from a conscious viewpoint, if I'm even speaking a little lower, you might be listening a little more, right? What we've created with the Consciousness Quotient Institute is this corporate consciousness quotient wheel, okay? This is our own design looking at experience and being able to measure experience on a number of levels within a corporation. And understanding, in the United States, corporations have the legal status of individuals. They have the legal status of individuals. And I would tell you that every corporation, when we look at experiences, if you're managing your experience in the organization based on the wheel, then you're looking at various areas. And we're going to talk about this based on each one of the quadrants. So I'd like to take you through each one of these areas that really focus in each one of the areas. And the first one is knowledge. And knowledge is really the process of data, information, systems information. It's the connection between information to create knowledge. It's not, data and information is not knowledge. Today, many people confuse access to information as knowledge. But within corporations that are doing it right, what they're doing is they're creating information libraries to create a knowledge base that really helps people develop experience and wisdom to do the right things, right? I called up a company the other day, and the experience was absolutely horrible. It was horrible. The person didn't hear me very clearly. Again, I was on a good phone, but asked me to repeat things 3 or 4 times. And then they had trouble with the systems. And I wound up tweeting about this afterwards. I said, why are some companies so bad? And overall I have about 1,500 followers. And I got back a response right away. It's because the management is too busy covering their assets, okay, and not busy enough training or caring about their people. Okay? So anyone can make things complex. It takes real brilliance to simplify things. And we heard some things during the conference about really just very simple common courtesy. How are you? How are you? Great. Nice to see you. Right? Thank you for calling. We heard before, T-Mobile, when you call up T-Mobile, every time you'll hear someone who sounds genuine. They sound like they're really glad to hear you. Why? Because the culture infuses this in terms of their customer service spirit. We have all this information. We have all this knowledge. Technology is everywhere. We've heard about phone, interactive voice response, the web, email, outbound, inbound, outbound, web chat, social media. This is everywhere. So why aren't we more conscious? Why aren't we doing a better job? Why? Because we're not taking a look continually as to what the customer experience is and what the employee experience is. The latest we've heard is about voice of the customer analytics. And I will tell you, I have some slides a little later from Clara Bridge, some variant slides. And I heard from the lady yesterday, maybe some of you saw the woman from Best Buy, right? One of the biggest advocates of Clara Bridge, voice text analytics. They're on the Users Council. And this is a technology which really provides a lot of insight and a lot of ways of changing the experience. Okay? So it's about empowering people with people skills, with training, with capability, with all this unified system integration as well as CRM, and then using this analytics as a tool to go ahead and empower the customer relationship. The next is the physical area, and so what is the physical area? Some of you might recognize this guy, right? Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, right? Okay, so I go into a restaurant, and the restaurant looks very nice. And I sit down at the restaurant with my wife, and suddenly there's a smell. What's that smell? It smells like cleaning fluid, you know? Like they're cleaning the floors and everything, you know? Like it's too clean. And I'm thinking in my head, is this place dirty? Right? I'm thinking, is this place dirty? And I'm thinking, all of a sudden, the thoughts, right? The mind starts happening, right? And I look at my wife and I say, a feeling in my stomach, you know? Everyone gets that feeling in your stomach, something's not right, right? Yeah? So I get the feeling in my stomach, I don't think so. Come on, let's go. And we go, right? So there is this, it's not only what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, it's the whole experience coming together in terms of our background, our culture, things that we grew up with, things that we know, all right? So it's really the whole idea that when you're out there and you're running a call center, for example, you want to make sure that the bathrooms are clean, right? You want to make sure that the break area is nice, that the chairs are nice, that nobody writes on the walls, you know, that this is part of who we are. This is family, you know, and in a call center environment, we want to empower the experience internally. Bright colors, nice rewards, you know, so this is all part of the physical environment. So here I am, I'm a customer, and what happens, I figure out, well, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? What do I want to buy? And I go out on the web, and I use my phone, right? How many of us have mobile phones with apps on them? Yeah, right? So I use my phone, and I check up, and I say, okay, I do a chat, I go on Yelp, I go on Facebook, I ask, what's a good place to go? And I also look at my network of opinions, and I also look at the site to see if it comes up and what it looks like, right? Next, I say, okay, let's go visit. So I go visit, I look at the location, the layout, the proximity, what happens. I see there are systems and what the connection is between the logo and the brand, the promise, and how it looks internally. I hear the music that's going on, right? I see the sounds, I see the lights, the colors, everything that comes with that. And then I start to look at the employee dress or the costume. Now this is also a part of the staging, right? You're going to realize we may be in business, but we're also on the stage. Our business, our brand, what we communicate, how we present it is like a stage, right? So the employees, how do they dress? What's their costume? What do they say? How do they say it? Are they really engaged, right? I mean, how many of us have gone into a restaurant or gone into a place of business and you look at the people who are working there and you know automatically that they're not happy, right? You know they're not happy. You know that they're disengaged, right? And what is that? You say, oh, it must be the manager. It must be the owner. It must be the leader, okay? And in often cases, it is. Because they're treating their people not like partners. They're treating their people like servants, okay? They're treating their people like servants. And this is a very important part. Do the employees know their lines? Do they know what they're saying? Do they know how to say it? And then I come back after I visit, and I type about it. I put it out on the internet, and now this is a whole experience. We'll get into the emotion quotient next. Wonderful woman, right? Right? Wonderful woman, right? The quote that she had, I have feelings too. I'm still a human being and want to be loved, right? I mean, isn't that what we all want? Don't we all want to be loved? Don't we all want to be valued and recognized? Don't we all want to have recognition? So when I walked around the room and I shook your hand, you felt like I saw you, right? Right? And I felt like I saw you as well, right? We all want that. That's the reason we're here. We're here to connect. We are wired for connection. We are born to connect. But yet many people are not vulnerable enough, and they run and hide, right? They run and hide because it's often too painful to connect. You have to be strong. You have to have a good sense of yourself, right? Good values, good principles. And nowadays, that's not common. Although it is the big differentiator for companies and leadership teams that are doing it. One of the companies, I believe everyone has heard of Zappos. You raise your hand if you've heard of Zappos in the US. Okay, the CEO from Zappos, Tony Hsieh, a young CEO who has one mission and vision for the company: deliver happiness, customer happiness. That's what they're supposed to be doing. So when we look at emotion, let me go back. It's the ability to perceive, the ability to understand and interpret, the ability to manage your emotions and adapt based on the person that you're speaking with, to be conscious, to be aware of what they're saying, and to really listen, okay, and then interact. And what happens with that is when you're doing that, and last year I talked about emotion quotient, the EQI, which we've done a lot of work on, this basic test that allows you to really determine a person's emotional capability. You know, oftentimes we hire people, we interact with people, and we wonder, are they there? You know, they get angry, they get crazy. We all get angry. We all get crazy. You know, but the question is whether or not we realize it, whether or not we recognize it. And this is all part of the ability to have quicker resolution to problems, higher levels of customer service and satisfaction, customer retention, and so on. Thank you. We'll go into leadership next. Gandhi said, "You must be the change you wish to see." The new leaders today have an energizing spirit and an attitude of service. Service to their employees and service to their customers. The new service-based leadership is vulnerable and open. They admit mistakes, they're open to change, they understand trends, they listen to employees, and they listen to customers. This spirit is felt. People want to follow leaders that have a sense of service to the employees. They're interested. That have a sense of service to the customers. They're interested. And this is part of the culture. It creates the culture in the organization. Yeah? Make sense? The next area is sociability. I love this quote up on top, "Power to the People," John Lennon. Anyone remember that song? Right? How does it go? Power to the people. Right? Not bad, right? So it's the idea that social media is revolutionary. It is changing everything. It is giving power to the people, and it's changing and disrupting corporations who don't know how to act. They're trying to figure it out. How do we be profitable and listen to our customers and give them a good customer experience? And I would say to you that this is the major differentiator. Customer experience, providing great customer experiences, is the major differentiator for the next decade forward. We have now, you know, everything happening on YouTube, all the cell phones. There's 10 times more cell phones, PDAs, and people surfing the internet than there are computers today. And that number is going to continue to rise and continue to increase. And this is just the beginning. We now have CitizenTube, social action, the ability to go ahead and really voice your opinion very quickly. The next area is measurement, and this is probably one of the most important areas. I have a picture here of Darwin. Many of you might not recognize him, but Darwin said it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that is most adaptable to change. Okay? So change is incredibly important. Change is the reason or why consciousness happens. Because suddenly you become conscious. You become aware. Our customers are important. We are able to stay in business. We're able to take care of our customers. I realize my mission, my vision, why I'm here is to go ahead and serve customers, right? So everything changes. And there are various analytic tools that we use in our practice, voice data, active, passive. Let me just say that customer experience is about awareness, what happens at the beginning of the process. It's about interaction, what happens in the call center and the retail store, and it's about cultivation of the relationship. And I would say to you, in most of your call centers, you're getting it by the time it's broken. Some promise was made that wasn't fulfilled. And this is really where analytics comes in, where you get to gauge sentiment, reputation, loyalty, and advocacy. With the customer that we work with, we recently did one of these journey maps. It's complex. I don't want to run you through the whole journey map, but just to say that green is good, red is bad. Okay? This is a client that works with customers that are turning on new service. And what we've done through this journey map at each one of these touch points is understand where are the emotional hotspots. You know, what's happening that we're not doing, that we should be doing well. With this customer, we noticed that there were real issues when they needed to roll a truck. The appointment wasn't right, and they couldn't tell them when the car would be there. Okay, so what we did was we looked at technology to actually find out where the truck was and to be proactive in calls. I will tell you that the analytic process runs from collecting data from surveys, call center notes, transcripts of audio, API, ad hoc services, social media news. We transform that data. We look at natural language processing engines, sentiment storing, areas like this. So it's voice and text. The ability to use things like Net Promoter Score to find out who are the promoters and the loyalists versus who are the detractors. And then be able to provide that on a very complex dashboard. This is a dashboard for the hotel industry. We can look at the emotions on this side, what people are saying, love, happiness, disgust, what people are saying about things like the cost, the elevators, the parking, so on and so forth. So we have an understanding based on word spotting and algorithms that look at specific types of phrases, right? We can look at the relationship report, whether or not they'd actually stay again, and also what's happening in terms of the blogosphere and social media to see what the competitors are doing. So at the end of the day, we look at how do we move from what the current experience is to the desired experience. And this takes a lot of insight. And the insight starts with everyone saying, we need help, right? Isn't the first part of change recognizing that we need help, right? And that's probably the most hardest, it is the hardest thing to do, because none of us want to be vulnerable. But we know today the only way to access data and access insight is to be vulnerable. So asking the right questions, looking at the language, the physical assets, doing interviews, looking at employees, customer insights, benchmarks, also the whole strategic area to create a vision for tomorrow is essential. So I can tell you one thing for sure. The only thing that is certain is change. Okay? But if you want to change, you have to go inside and you have to look at where you are. I said to you as I started, I believe that consciousness is the reason why I'm alive after being a 2-time cancer survivor. And I totally believe that if I stay conscious, I can be healthy, I can live a better life. And I believe that if your business is conscious, that you can do the same. You can be very, very profitable and very strong. You just have to say, I need help. I'm here. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. So, are we conscious? Are we awake? All right, good. So there's two things. There is a store card in terms of the session, for today's session. I expect you all to give me the highest mark. Okay? The highest. Absolutely. The second thing is, I want to just ask one question. We have time for one question? Absolutely. All right, does anyone have a question? Come on now. Throw me a soft question. Ronnie, you have a question? You raise your hand.
Hold on. Ronnie?
It's not a question as much. First of all, I thought that was a wonderful presentation, so thank you very much. And I think that something that you said really made me think. You talked about the fact of companies and how they treat their employees and how that reflects on the customer. And I think that comes from the basic human desire to want to help others. And you put in mind, there's a restaurant in my neighborhood that has the best food, but no one goes, not because of the food, but because of the way that the person that runs it treats his employees.
Right.
Because when you have a meal, it's a family experience. It's a tribal family experience, and it's just interesting. It really helped me connect the fact that it's really about the human desire to want to help others and not to want to do business with someone that would take so little time to help his own.
Absolutely. And let me also say, how many of you can tell like that whether or not somebody is happy? Can you, shake your head if you can tell whether or not somebody's happy. You can tell like that if somebody is sad or depressed or sad, they've had a bad day, right? And you go and you say, what's wrong? Right? What's wrong? Right? They don't even have to say anything. We know, we can hear. When you're on the phone with someone, you know. You can just hear it. You know like this, in 10 seconds, whether or not the person hears you and they're engaged, right? And that's culture. That's culture. Family, right? So we all need them. Any other questions? Yes, in the back, of course.
Two questions.
Yeah, it's Kate. Thank you for your words and thank you for being here after your history of fighting cancer. And I'm just trying to cope with the presentation as well. So basically, what I see is the fight that we have every day in every line of business between the detractors and the loyal customers. So there's the equation of how we do that the detractors are going to be less and less to driven more business to the company, right?
Right.
So and the thing that I see is that the KPIs have to change, right? Because the current KPIs that we use on the call center business are just focused on the metrical part of the experience, just the call center, but not the client side.
Right.
So
right. Zappos is a great example. They don't have metrics. Their primary metric is customer engagement. And they will actually pay people to leave the company if they don't really believe that they can be fully engaged and fully present as a part of the customer happiness ethos. They'll pay them $2,000 to leave within the first 60 days after training. Okay, so this is important. It's part of the mantra. It's part of the who we are. As good families have good values. We don't do that in our home. You know, this isn't the way we do things. We treat each other with respect. We heard before, ladies and gentlemen, handling ladies and gentlemen, right? It's wonderful. This is the way we have to be with our families, our people, the people who work with us. They're not servants. They're not horses that have to go faster. So, is that?
Yes.
Good.
Keith, we have time for one more question. Tenemos tiempo para una pregunta más.
Right here.
Para todos, no, la persona ya lo pidió aquí. Keith va a estar aquí toda la tarde. They can approach you at any time.
Sure.
Because I see there might be more questions, but we only have time for one more.
Sure. And this is my office number. And my office number often will go right to my cell phone. So you're welcome to call me wherever I am.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. I thought I came to this seminar to see technology and how to focus on my customers. And what I take from this is I'm going to go back to my office and focus on people who work with me.
Yes. Yes.
And
yes.
then I can do the rest.
Yes. Yes.
Basically, my question would be if there's any tools or methodology to go and analyze your, the business environment or the culture of the, or how people are feeling. So this can be done in a better and faster way than just by feeling unconscious.
Sure.
And I would love to get your presentation. I already sent you an email.
Sure.
You could share your presentation.
While we were here?
Yes.
Great, excellent. So, there are tools and there are ways of looking internally. There's, as we had in the other slide before, there's internal scans, there's employee interviews, there's customer interviews, there's ways of gathering feedback and really understanding from an environmental viewpoint, from a leadership viewpoint, leadership 360s, to understand what people are really thinking about the leadership team. So, this is what we do as part of our practice. We'd be glad to help you, but there are a lot of other resources out there that you can go to if you want. But I will tell you one thing. And Albert Einstein said this, right? You might have saw that. The mind that created the problem is not the same mind that can solve the problem, right? You have to change your consciousness around it. And oftentimes that requires someone to come in to help a different perspective. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Keith. Yo refrendo lo que ya se ha dicho. Fue una maravillosa presentación, a wonderful presentation. And the gentleman, Keith's presentation is on the CD with your material. He doesn't have to send it to you. It's on your material. Please approach Keith. He'll be here for the rest of the day. He'll be more than willing to
more than willing, absolutely. Don't worry.
And please, I know this will go to his head, but last year Keith was the highest evaluated speaker. I don't want to go to his head. Fue el ponente mejor evaluado de todo el evento. Entonces, no sé si le quieran bajar los humos un poquito o si, I don't know if they want you to get those ears down a little bit or keep them up.
Listen, I care about you, care about me, score me very high.
Vamos a retrasar.